Larry Biddle.
Yes.
Decided to come and join us tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much too, Janet.
You've been pretty busy.
Yes, I have.
You're a published author now.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
You've worked on successful campaigns.
Yes.
You've set the stage for internet use for presidential campaigns.
Yes.
What haven't you done?
Well, I haven't gotten rich. But
well, before we talk to you about your new book, let's talk about your experience with the 2004 Howard Dean presidential campaign.
Well, this book is about that.
Right.
Actually, it's sort of the purpose of the book is to tell the world about the internet experience and how that affected the political stage within which the Howard Dean campaign was set. And it also has, I want to say, some very cool stories, some back stuff that nobody knows about.
Well, how would you describe, I mean, you guys were sort of the pioneers when it came to the internet in presidential campaigns.
Yeah.
How would you describe, what were some of the things that you did that allowed others to say, I want to do that too?
Well, first of all, we actually were trying to create a way in which the grassroots communities could form among themselves in such a way that they could support the candidate, they could talk to each other. We gave them tools, ways in which they could be in the middle of the night in their pajamas dealing with political issues in their home at their internet station, and they've never had, this possibility has never existed before. So all of a sudden, people began to really look around and say, hey, there's a lot of people in my neighborhood, because they could find out,
right,
who also supported this campaign and were really electrified by him and said they wanted to do something about that. So there were meetups, there was Move On, all these kinds of things that let people organize themselves and become part of a community that never existed before.
Do you think, because of the internet now, it seems like people are unofficially running so much earlier than they would when it was just national television spots and print ads.
Right.
Do you think that how much effect has the internet had, in your opinion, on people not running yet?
Well, because through the websites, they can actually begin to build a constituency. Before you couldn't do that. There was just not enough interest in these candidates, and there was no way for a publisher or the media to feel like this is an opportunity to start talking about them. In this case, they set up the platforms, and they provide the opportunities for people to say, hey, this guy's or gal's pretty great, so I want to get involved with them, and I want to hear about them. So they can do all of this stuff earlier. I mean, these campaigns have already raised beyond what we raised, which we thought was pretty spectacular, at $50 million.
How creative have things, in your opinion, been over the past 4 years or 3 years?
Well, there are more tools. I think what they're doing is what we did with more tools and a much more broadcasted way. There are possibilities, particularly in the social networks, that we just never, ever dreamed about before. So there are ways in which clusters of people can organize with their friends and say, I think you should support the candidate that I think is really important. So word of mouth, which is the most important currency in the world right now, and where people really get trusted sources that tell them what they should think and believe and where they should go to look and find out about stuff. So the word of mouth has just exploded. That is the opportunity for that to happen beyond our belief, beyond what we thought was possible.
You know, your book, Mousepads, Shoe Leather, and Hope, that you wrote, you mentioned you had some really cool stories in there.
I do.
Can you tell us just one story?
Well, probably the most interesting story is the whole Dean scream.
The whole what?
The Dean scream, so-called. Well, the interesting thing about the Dean scream is that, Howard was yelling into this microphone, and he was among thousands of people, and they were just getting louder and louder and louder along the way. So what he was doing actually was, he thought, with the microphone that they had handed him, talking to the audience there and having to talk over top of them and louder than they were talking. And it turned out that was actually a broadcast microphone. So that what would normally be okay in a room was in fact really not being broadcast into the room, but was broadcast on television. And so when he was screaming at the end, which had a lot of enthusiasm and everything, what happened was it gave a final kind of fulcrum of what the media was trying to portray him as, a little bit of a screwball. and a little bit weird, and a big liberal, and all kinds of things like that, which I don't think justified,
true. Right.
Not true. But the fact of the matter is, it just sealed the deal for the general public when they sort of had already stories that they'd read foddered by those kinds of media perceptions.
You know, Howard Dean has also made his name back into the public eye with the whole Florida Democratic debate.
Yep.
Or how are you helping on that? And what's the inside scoop, or what do you think is going on there?
I'm not involved in Florida politics. The last time I was with Alex Sink, working on her internet campaign. But yeah, it's kind of a bad story. It's a really bad situation. I think that the Democrats, there's a lot of blame to go around for a lot of people, but I think there were a lot of Florida Democrats doing the wrong thing. This is, to me, like if you went to take an exam, you didn't study for the exam, you failed the exam, and then you blame the teacher. And in fact, the teacher in this case is Howard Dean. What happened was the Democratic Party was asleep at the wheel in two instances. Not that the Republicans didn't do a really masterful job of trying to maneuver this situation, but the fact of the matter is,
it's going to affect.
They could have applied, Janet, to be one of those early states.
Yeah.
And it could have been Florida instead of South Carolina, but they didn't bother to do that. So they didn't do their homework. And I think I'm feeling bad about that. On the other hand, we have a situation that, like, hey, these are the rules we're supposed to go by. I think in the end it's going to be fine. I think that it's unfortunate that probably to some degree Senator Nelson, some of the others are feeding the situation by making it a lot worse, saying they want to sue the DNC, et cetera, et cetera. I think in the end, Florida Democrats it's going to be a non-issue
eventually. It's going to go away.
Has to go away.
Well, talk to us about your book. It sold out on Amazon. Congratulations.
It did. Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
That's
there may
pretty
have been
cool.
Just a few copies. I don't know, but
published
who cares?
author, and it sells out. Where can people get this besides Amazon, obviously?
Well, the easiest way is just go to the search engine and go to the homepage, rather, in the search box, put quote Larry Biddle, unquote, and it'll just pop right up on the top of the screen.
Quote Larry Biddle. We haven't even touched on PlanningWorks.
Well, it's an interesting point of view that I came to learn about the tools and the work of the internet, and having come to that experience in politics, which is sort of like an intermission to my career after 30 years of working with nonprofit organizations. So I've gone back to the nonprofit organizations, and now I'm taking everything that I learned from the Dean campaign, and a whole lot more, since now we have to keep up with all this stuff, and creating strategic plans for nonprofit organizations throughout the world, actually, outside of the United States. And so we're trying to teach nonprofit organizations how to become communicating organizations. And using the internet to do that, they can do the same thing that we did on the Dean campaign. Find people who agree with their mission, want to support them, get involved, and organizations, the nonprofits, need to create opportunities on the web for people to be able to do that. So I teach them how to do that.
Give us the contact information for PlanningWorks, and give a success story, something that you have worked on that was so successful.
It's my website is, which this segment will have to be on the website pretty soon, I'm sure.
It will be,
of course. Is PlanningWorksOnline.com.
Simple. PlanningWorksOnline.com.
That's right. And so there's my logo. That's really sweet. Thank you very much. That's great. Well, so I think one of the most successful stories is the fact that we have now been able to build websites in such a way that people can more easily find information in them. That sounds like a really simple thing, but in fact,
it's a good thing.
We're all sort of overwhelmed when we look at a site and it's not designed properly, and it doesn't look like we can find the information we're looking for. So we actually have worked very well with nonprofits and in finding ways in which people can, in presenting information to people and having content aggregated so that people can quickly get inside and find their little niche. Because people look at a website and in 20 or 30 seconds they decide.
They're off if they don't see it on the front page. And if you want to find out all you want to know about PlanningWorks, you go to PlanningWorksOnline.com and get in contact with Larry Biddle. Thank you very much.
Great to see you.
I'm so glad that you were here tonight.
Thank you. It's good to be here.